My mother didn't lower her voice. She looked right at me, in the middle of the crowded dining room, and said, "Emily, you've been a burden since the day you arrived." The room fell silent so fast, it felt like the air had been sucked out, and the part no one knew, not yet, was that this wasn't even the deepest cut she delivered that night. Before I take you further into what happened, may I gently ask, if stories like this ever echoed something in your own life, consider subscribing. It truly helps these stories find the people who need them. Thank you. My name is Emily Carter, 29 years old, and long before that night, my life had already been shaped by a quiet pattern of being overlooked. I grew up outside Portland, Oregon, in a pine-framed neighborhood people described as calm, safe, picture-perfect. But inside our gray-shingled house at the corner of West Haven Road, everything revolved around one person, my younger sister, Lily. If Lily forgot her homework, my mom emailed the teacher, apologized profusely, and baked muffins as a peace offering. If I won a debate tournament, she'd glance up from her phone and say, "That's nice, honey," then immediately shift back to Lily's latest, potential-filled art project. I learned early how effortlessly a girl can vanish in a household she helps hold together. By 16, I was working evening shifts at a bookstore to help cover the utilities my parents pretended weren't past due. They never asked where the money came from. They only asked for the receipt. Meanwhile, Lily's smallest accomplishments were treated like prophecy. I kept hoping adulthood would reshift the balance. A scholarship, a marketing degree, a job at a fast-growing firm in Seattle. I thought success might finally force them to see me. But praise from the outside world only highlighted how little my family valued it when it came from me. Still, some stubborn part of me kept believing in a future where their pride finally included my name. And then came the dinner, the celebration I paid for, planned and hoped would be the turning point. Instead, it became the night my mother said the sentence that shattered everything I was still trying to salvage. Because those words didn't just hurt me, they changed the direction of my entire life. In the days leading up to that dinner, I kept telling myself things would be different this time. Maybe it was naive hope, maybe it was muscle memory, decades of trying to earn a seat at my own family's table. Still, I planned everything with the precision of someone who desperately wanted one evening to finally go right. It started gently, almost innocently, the way storms sometimes begin with a soft wind brushing against the windows. I booked a quiet private room at Alder and Pine, a restaurant I'd admired through their glass facade since college. Warm amber lights, dark oak tables, the kind of place where people toast to new beginnings. I thought, maybe this will be ours. I covered the deposit, the menu, the wine, because my parents would never offer, and I didn't want the night to begin with excuses. My coworkers arrived first, all easy smiles and warm congratulations. They asked about my promotion, about the campaigns I'd led, about the plans I had for the future. For once, I felt visible, grounded, like a person whose work actually meant something. Then my parents walked in. My mother's heels clicked against the hardwood like punctuation, sharp, deliberate, signaling the tone before she ever spoke. My father followed, wearing the same polite, distant expression he always wore when the occasion wasn't about Lily. Still, I greeted them with the version of myself I'd practiced. Steady voice, hopeful smile, shoulders square but soft. "I'm glad you came," I said, and I meant it. God, I meant it more than I should have. At first, the tension was small, almost manageable. My professor complimented the marketing strategy I'd built from scratch. My manager called me the backbone of our team. Every word felt like sunlight I didn't know how to absorb. Then my mother tilted her head, smiled that tight, polished smile she used for neighbors she didn't actually like, and said, "Well, we're proud of both our daughters. Lily just has such a gift, you know. Her art teacher said she has the kind of talent people are born with." There it was, the first hairline crack, a small shift in the air, a familiar sting at the base of my throat, but I pushed through it. I'd survived worse. Then came the second shift, subtle but deeper. One of my coworkers said, "Emily carried the entire client pitch last quarter. Honestly, I don't know how she kept the team afloat." My father chuckled, not kindly. "Sure, she works hard, but creativity, vision, that kind of spark, that's something Lily has naturally. Some people are just born with purpose." The table fell quiet. My heartbeat climbed one slow step upward, like a foot on a creaking staircase. I tried to smile through it, tried to steady my breathing. "Not tonight," I kept telling myself. "Not this time. Don't let them take this from you too." But the escalation didn't stop. It never stops with people who refuse to see you. My manager raised his glass, giving one final attempt to salvage the evening. "Tonight is about Emily," he said gently. "She's earned every bit of this celebration." My mother sighed, actually sighed, and said, "Must we make it dramatic? Lily never needs this level of attention." That was the third shift, the moment the room exhaled sharply and then held its breath. Something hot crawled up my spine. Shame, anger, exhaustion, braiding together like a fuse catching fire. But the real ignition was still coming. As dessert plates were set down and conversation thinned into uncomfortable silence, my mother leaned back, folded her arms, and muttered, "You know, Emily, you really do take everything too seriously. Lily never causes scenes." A small gasp from someone across the table, a hollow crack inside my ribs, and then the final blow. My mother, looking at me like I was an inconvenience she'd tolerated too long, said the words that detonated the night. "Sometimes I wish you weren't my responsibility at all." Something inside me didn't just break, it shifted, slow at first, then with the unstoppable force of a fault line finally giving way. The escalation was complete, and the explosion was only beginning. Her words should have floated away like something careless, something said in frustration, but they didn't. They hit the table with weight, cold, deliberate, familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten. "Sometimes I wish you weren't my responsibility at all." For a moment, the world didn't feel real. The room seemed to tilt, not violently, but the way a boat shifts when a wave catches it unexpectedly. Conversation dissolved, the clatter of dishes faded, even the warm glow of alder and pine's pendant lights blurred as if someone smeared the edges with their thumb. All I could hear was the soft rush of blood in my ears. I didn't look around, I didn't need to. I could feel the stares, the confusion, the sympathy, the discomfort. But the only faces that mattered were sitting at the end of the table, completely unbothered by the wreckage they'd just dropped into my lap. My father sighed first, as if he were the one inconvenienced. "Helen, let's not escalate. We're in public." As if the problem was volume, as if the wound only counted if someone else heard it. My mother didn't blink. She kept her eyes on me, her expression the same measured irritation she used whenever I didn't immediately fall in line. "Emily always reacts like this," she said. "You know how she gets. How I get. Not what she said, not what it meant, how I get." I felt something tug inside me, fragile at first, like thread slipping loose from a seam. My manager tried to bridge the tension, offering a gentle redirect, but my mother brushed him off with emotion that carried more dismissal than any word she could have spoken. "You all don't understand," she said to the table. "Emily has always been sensitive. Lily never makes things about herself." There it was again, the gravity pulling everything back to my sister. It didn't matter the occasion, didn't matter the purpose of the night, didn't matter that I had worked for years, not for applause, but for a chance to be acknowledged as something other than the variable they tolerated. This wasn't new, but the sharpness of it, the boldness, was. My voice felt trapped somewhere behind my ribs. "I invited you here because I wanted us to share something good, that's all?" My mother shook her head, almost amused. "Emily, you're nearly 30. A job is not a legacy. Lily's work. Now that's purpose." A slow burn climbed the back of my neck. My father leaned back, long suffering. This is exactly what we meant. You take everything so personally." My breath caught, small and sharp. They weren't just refusing to see the hurt, they were blaming me for having it. Around us, the table shifted subtly, a fork set down too gently, a napkin folded and refolded. My coworkers weren't sure where to look, but I could feel their empathy radiating like heat. And deep inside, something old and tired finally began to move. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was a quiet realization, blooming through the cracks of years I had spent contorting myself to fit the outline of a daughter they never wanted. I straightened. "Why did you come tonight?" "Truly." My mother blinked once, bored. "Because Lily thought it would be good for you. She tries so hard to lift you up." Lift me up, like I was a charity project, a misbehaving shadow needing occasional sunlight. I felt my fingers curl around the edges of my napkin. "I don't need lifting," I said softly. My father gave a small laugh, the kind that twists more than it soothes. "Perspective, Emily. That's what you need." A wave of humiliation flushed through me, not because I believed them, but because I finally saw it clearly. This wasn't a temporary rift. This wasn't about tonight. This was who they had always been, and who I had taught myself to survive. The waiter approached timidly with coffee refills. No one touched them. The steam curled upward, dissolving into air already heavy with words that couldn't be taken back. I finally said the thing I had never dared to voice aloud. "I'm your daughter." My mother's response was instant and merciless. "And Lily is our priority. You're too old to pretend otherwise." A soft gasp escaped my coworker Hannah, but the room felt far away now, like I was watching it through water. My chest tightened, and for a moment I thought the ache might split me open. But underneath the pain was something steadier, something rising. I didn't recognize it at first. Strength rarely arrives with trumpets. Sometimes it shows up as numbness that clears the fog. I pushed my chair back. The sound sliced through the quiet, clean, and undeniable. My mother's jaw tightened. "Emily, don't you dare make a scene." I stood taller than I felt. "I'm not making a scene," I said calmly. "I'm making a boundary." Her eyes flashed, ready to strike again, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned, and the simple act of walking away felt like breaking a spell I'd lived under my entire life. Every step carried a weight I had never allowed myself to hold, the weight of choosing myself. Behind me, I heard my mother hiss, "She always ruins everything." Maybe, but for the first time, her words didn't land inside me. They fell behind me, powerless, like stones thrown into the ocean. Because I wasn't running away anymore. I was finally walking out. The moment the restaurant door closed behind me, the night felt colder than it should have been. Not the kind of cold that bites at your skin. This one settled deeper, sinking into the places where hope used to live. Alder and pine's warm lights spilled faintly onto the sidewalk behind me, but I didn't turn back. I couldn't. My heels clicked against the pavement in uneven beats, matching the trembling under my ribs. Seattle's air carried that familiar mix of rain and espresso, but tonight it tasted metallic, like the aftershock of something breaking. I didn't cry. I thought I would. God, I thought I'd fall apart right there on the curb. But nothing came. Just a hollow buzzing in my chest, like a room someone had emptied too quickly. I walked without looking at my phone, without thinking about where I was going, without replaying the scene the way I normally would. There were no whispered self-blames, no mental rewrites of what I should have said, just silence. A terrifying, liberating silence. By the time I reached my apartment, my hands were shaking, not violently, just enough to betray the exhaustion I had trained myself to ignore. I kicked off my heels, let my coat slide off my shoulders, and sank onto the floor beside the couch like someone whose bones had finally given out. The apartment was dim, the streetlights painting faint stripes across the hardwood. The kind of calm that should have comforted me. Instead, it pressed against me like a weight. I sat there with my knees pulled loosely toward my chest, staring at nothing and everything at once. The night replayed behind my eyelids in disjointed fragments, the gasp at the table, the flash of pity on Hannah's face, the quiet horror in my manager's eyes. But mostly, it was my mother's voice echoing through the quiet. "You're not our priority. Lily never makes things about herself. I wish you weren't my responsibility." Each line drifted through me like smoke, no longer sharp, but still capable of choking. I wasn't shattered. Shattering implied something dramatic, loud, irreversible. What I felt instead was more subtle, a slow peeling away of illusions I didn't realize I had been gripping like rope. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone buzzed on the coffee table. The sound felt too loud in the quiet, like it didn't belong in the same world I currently inhabited. 11 missed calls from my parents. A single text message lit the screen. "You embarrassed us tonight. I hope you're proud of yourself." Proud. The word twisted, but not in the old way. This time, it didn't sink into me like a hook. It bounced off, almost failing to penetrate. Something inside me shifted. Small, but unmistakable. I opened my banking app. 3 automatic transfers were sitting in the queue. My parents' electricity bill, my mother's insurance, and a payment toward Lily's art program fees. Payments I had made for years while my family pretended I wasn't the reason their house stayed warm. My finger hovered for half a second over the cancel button. The old version of me, the one who believed love equaled sacrifice, who thought worth was earned by carrying other people's weight, fought to rise. But she was tired, so tired. I pressed cancel once, twice, 3 times. Each confirmation chimed softly like small doors closing, not slamming, just shutting with resolution. I expected guilt to claw at me, expected fear, but nothing came. Only a strange, quiet calm, like the first inhale after standing up from underwater. A knock sounded at my door not long after, gentle, hesitant. "Em? You alive in there?" It was Mara, my closest coworker, holding paper bags of takeout and a bottle of red wine. She took one look at me, barefoot, wrapped in the dim light of my apartment, and didn't ask a single unnecessary question. She just sat beside me on the floor, close enough to anchor me without pressing. We ate in silence, the kind of silence that warms instead of wounds. After a while, she murmured, "You didn't deserve any of that. Not 1 second of it." Something in my throat tightened. Not the painful kind, but the kind that happens when someone finally tells you the truth you didn't know you were starving for. And in that moment, something settled inside me. A decision. A line. A quiet, growing understanding that walking away from that dinner wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't fighting to be loved. I was fighting to be free. 3 weeks passed before my parents showed up at my door. Not a text of apology, not a voicemail, not even a half-hearted, "We should talk." Silence, deep, deliberate silence, was all they offered, and for the first time in my life, it didn't hollow me out. It gave me room to breathe. Work filled the space where guilt used to live. I buried myself in campaigns, presentations, the quiet rhythm of productivity that didn't ask me to shrink. My manager trusted me with new clients. Mara checked in daily, making sure I ate, slept, didn't disappear into the fog of old wounds. Slowly, I felt the pieces of myself rearranging. Still fragile, but reorganizing into something steadier. Then, on a Tuesday evening, a long gray Seattle Tuesday where the rain pressed against the windows like it wanted inside, I saw 2 silhouettes through the frosted glass of my apartment door. At first, I thought it was a delivery. I wasn't expecting anyone. Then I heard my mother's voice. "Emily, open the door. We know you're there." Her tone wasn't soft, not hesitant, not regretful. It was the same clipped tone she used when a store clerk refused a return. I didn't rush. I didn't feel that familiar jolt of panic or duty. I simply breathed, wiped my hands on a dish towel, and opened the door. They walked in without waiting for permission. My apartment, my quiet, healing place, felt instantly smaller. My father sat on the couch, stiff-backed, as if bracing for an argument he intended to win. My mother paced once, looked around, and then finally faced me with that brittle air of inconvenience. "We need to talk," she said. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, pulse steady. "About what?" "About Lily," she replied, as though the subject should have been obvious. "Her program cut funding. Her gallery mentorship fell through. If her fees aren't paid by Friday, she'll lose her spot." There it was. The reason for their visit. Not me, not the hurt, not the words that shattered an entire night of my life. Money. My mother's gaze sharpened. "We need your help." Something cold and clean ran through me. Not shock, not anger, just clarity. A clarity so absolute it felt like stepping into sunlight after years underground. "When I didn't answer immediately," my mother went on, "I assumed you were still upset. But Emily, this is family." I almost laughed. It slipped out as a breath, short and disbelieving. "Family? You called me a burden." My father straightened. "We were angry. You provoked us." "I provoked you," I repeated, my voice quiet but unwavering. My mother rolled her eyes. "Don't get dramatic. Lily would never weaponize emotions this way." And that, right there, was the final fracture. Not a break. A release. I stepped closer, not aggressive, just certain. "I paid your bills for years. I covered Mom's insurance. I paid Lily's program fees. And you never once asked if I was okay. You never once said thank you." My mother opened her mouth, but I kept going because the words were no longer heavy. They were truth finally unbound. "You stood in a room full of people and said you wished I weren't your responsibility. You humiliated me, and you didn't show up tonight to fix anything. You showed up because you needed something." Silence stretched, taut and uncomfortable. My father's jaw tightened. "We raised you." "No," I said, voice calm, steady. "You benefited from me." My mother scoffed. "You'll regret this." I shook my head. "I regret staying this long." I walked to the door and opened it, letting the hallway light spill in like a line drawn across the floor. "If you came to apologize, I would have listened, but you came to take... again." I met their eyes. Really met them. "That ends now." They stared at me, stunned. Not because they were hurt, but because I finally stopped kneeling. And as they walked out, my mother furious, my father rigid, I felt something unclench inside me. Not triumph, not vengeance. Freedom. The kind that begins quietly, like the first breath after choosing yourself. In the weeks after my parents walked out of my apartment, the silence they left behind didn't ache the way it used to. It felt different. Lighter, almost spacious, like a room that finally had windows you could open. I kept waiting for the guilt to return, for the fear, for that old instinct to run after them and apologize for injuries I never caused. But instead, something steadier settled inside me. I learned that healing isn't a single moment. It's a series of small, brave decisions, canceling the payments, closing the door, choosing your own voice over the echo of someone else's disappointment. And somewhere between those choices, I realized something I had spent my whole life trying not to see. Sometimes the family you fight hardest for is the one you must finally walk away from to save yourself. That's the truth I carry with me now, not bitterness, not regret, just clarity. A clarity that lets me breathe in rooms I once shrank inside. A clarity that reminds me I was never difficult. I was simply unappreciated. If my story touched something in you, if it reminded you of a weight you've been carrying alone, I want you to know this. You're not weak for wanting love, and you're not wrong for demanding respect. You are allowed to outgrow the people who refuse to see you. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Truly. If you'd like to hear more stories of resilience and rising after heartbreak, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, or share this video with someone who needs the reminder that they're not alone. And until then, take care of yourself in the ways no one ever taught you to. I'll see you in the next story.